Clearly, we should have been better prepared. We don't use that particular tactic in a high tempo, but it works well with what they do. It really gives their offensive line a chance to rest for a play, because those guys, when they're throwing that smoke screen out there, they're just standing there. So our guys are chasing the ball, and having to go back and forth, and it's tiring. But yeah, absolutely, we should have been better prepared, and that's on me.
So you were making a call, and they were throwing it out to their boundary line.
Well, what happened? On any particular play, we call the signals for our defense from the sideline. So if the ball is on their hash, their sideline, our guys are looking over here. Well, they've got 3 guys on their sideline, and we're getting the call, and then as soon as we're getting the call, they're up on the ball and throwing it.
Did they ever run it from field side, that screen?
I don't believe so.
Was that something new that they put in?
No, I mean, it's stuff they did. We saw more of it than they had done. They did in the first half, and we adjusted better than we did the second half. I think that being out there as many snaps as we were in the third quarter tended to get us a little bit slower. We were a little bit more on our heels, and it obviously had an effect.
Because that was so successful in that sense, why haven't more teams done things like that? And also, is that kind of starting to stretch the boundaries of, like you said, talked about on Saturday, trying to get calls in and things like that, and they're already snapping it and going.
It's within the rules. It's what they do. I think it makes it difficult on defense. If we would have done a better job of being more physical at the point of attack, and part of that goes on me on giving them more calls. We were trying to get into more man calls, but you've got to line up and figure out where their men are. If they go 2 by 2, you're on Nichols to the field. When it's 3 by 1, now he's got to run from the field to the boundary. The play's over, and they're looking for the call. And now T-Fred's having to sprint over. So it's a difficult thing to defend. We have some things in place now. We talked about it all day yesterday, and for teams that want to do that, I've not seen anybody do it as consistently as they've done it. But we have some things in place that'll help us communicate more effectively to our players and limit what they have to think about so they can get lined up quicker and be more physical.
That's an old Texas tack play, right?
A lot of people do that.
Does Missouri do it some too?
Yeah, absolutely. Spread teams, it's part of their repertoire. Typically, you can get them out of that if you're more physical at the point of attack. If they're throwing bubble screens and you're only getting a yard or 2, they're going to go away from it. The biggest issue we had was not being physical at the point of attack.
When the guys you were substituting guys in and out, and they're sprinting off the sideline, how big of a problem does that become as far as maybe fatigue?
Well, what should have been happening, our intent and our plan was only to substitute when they substitute. And when they substitute, there's supposed to be an official stand over the ball. For whatever reason, that didn't always happen. And later in the game, it did. After we addressed it, it did happen. So there wasn't the issue with substitution later. But again, it's difficult when they're substituting as the play's ending and they don't see players running the field until afterwards. They realize, well, they're in 2 backs one play, now they're in 1 back.
So you think the officials were having trouble keeping up with the up-tempo
I
offense as well?
I think it's difficult.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult for everybody. It's difficult to coach against. It's difficult for defense to line up against. It is difficult to officiate, but it's within the rules, and they're smart to use it.
Coach, when you talk about getting more physical at the point of attack, short of getting Coriel Judy back, how do you address that on the perimeter?
Well, we're going to work it today. Anytime you don't do something effectively, I think you have to hit it on Monday morning. We addressed in our meeting. We're going to go out and practice today. We're going to go against our first team offense, and we're going to run perimeter drill where we're running smoke screens and bubbles and passing the game off of it. And we're going to get our best receivers blocking us and our best defenders getting off blocks to get the ball carrier.
Do you feel like they did a good job of creating mismatches too? A lot of times they had, you had an outside linebacker, DeMontre or Sean covering Justin Blackmon on the outside. Do you feel like they did a good job, taking advantage of it?
Well, we got caught. The one time DeMontre got caught on a 7 cut and he didn't defend it very well. We do that in pressure situations, and the pressure didn't get there. We weren't trying to match him up. They do a good job of moving Blackmon around. I think it just by happenstance they happen to get him caught on that. you know, we run multiple defenses in multiple coverage. They happen to catch us on one there. We might have been in a quarters look or a two look, and DeMontre doesn't have to cover him. But they caught us there, and we didn't, you know, I think it was Jonathan Stewart was free on the blitz there, and he was about a half step late. You know, we got to do a better job with that.
Coach, knowing the leadership and the talent that you have, how are you expecting this defense to respond against Arkansas today?
I expect our defense, you know, because we have a lot of guys who played, to come back with resolve. You know, I absolutely believe our guys think we're going to win the rest of the games on our schedule. We talked about it this morning, that there's enough blame to go around from coaches to players. I thought we had a couple guys that did a nice job with leadership, you know, on the sideline. I think Trent and Terrence Frederick both were guys who stepped up as far as the mental toughness part of the game. But it's got to be more widespread. And, you know, it was a difficult situation having those many plays in that kind of a, you know, middle of the day, 90-degree sun beating down on the situation. It's difficult, but we've got to be able to stand up and compete in that situation.
What mindset do you try to instill in your players when it comes to like overcoming sudden change plays like turnovers?
Well, we talk to them all the time about that. You know, part of our components for championship defense is engagement and being mentally engaged, realizing that at certain points during a game, there are times where you may drift, whether you have a lead or you're down. You may have a sudden change situation, and we talk to them, that's where you got to trigger back. And, you know, anytime there's a sudden change situation, there's a potential for a huge momentum shift. And what we want to do as a defense, and we talk about it every single time we go on the field and a sudden changes, this is our opportunity to seize that momentum right back by taking the ball away or getting a stop. We did not do that very well on Saturday, obviously. But that's addressed it's addressed in our meetings, and then every single time we go out in that situation, we don't just run on the field. This is our time, guys. This is where we take our, you know, the momentum back to us. And, you know, while we talk about it, they were much more effective in executing what they wanted to get done than we were in stopping.
You've talked about DeMontre's maturation. Was that on display again with the call against him?
You know, he's a two-step forward, one-step back guy right now. We've got him, you know, he's making progress. It's got to be more consistent progress for us to be happy with him. But he's a young man with a lot of talent, and we need him, but we need him to be doing things our way. Obviously, you know, two stupid penalties. One stupid penalty, one, you know, he was leaning. It's going to happen sometimes when you try to get a jump on a pass rush. But the second penalty, the 15-yard penalty, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's not going to be tolerated.
Coach, on Saturday you mentioned you hoped your players were ticked off, pissed off about the loss, about the way they played, just like you are about the way you coach. Early returns, you hadn't been on the practice field yet. Looking in their eyes, do you sense positivity there?
Absolutely. I think our guys showed up today with resolve. You know, nobody was cutting up. Nobody was. I mean, we realized we had an opportunity. We let it slip. The great thing about this game, when you still have games left, is that on Saturday we have another opportunity to show what we really feel we're all about as a defense. And we've got a tremendous opponent in Arkansas that's going to be a great challenge. Different set of players, different scheme than what we just faced, but a heck of a lot of talent. And I have not seen the stats since they played Alabama, but I know they were the #1 offense in the SEC going into that game. Most teams, after you play Alabama, drop a little bit. But we still, you know, we see those players. They've got as good a receiving crew as anyone in the country. The quarterback is an excellent football player, and the running back Wingo is a physical load. So we know we have our hands full this weekend. So that, I think, helps you get back on that horse when you've been knocked off. You know, you realize, hey, there's no walling around feeling sorry for yourself. Let's go. Let's get things corrected and let's press on.
Does Arkansas look any different with Tyler Wilson as opposed to last year with Brian Allen?
The scheme is similar. They're doing a little bit more movement in the pocket with him. He's a little bit more athletic. He will scramble to run the football much more than Mallett, who kind of scrambled to throw the football down the field. He'll do both, but you'll see a little bit more of a running situation with him. They're also bringing 17 in to run a little bit of option game with him. So in that sense, they're running a little bit of different scheme stuff, but it's still very, very multiple personnel groupings. run and then to set up play action pass and take their deep shots and then get in 4 wides and spread you out.
So you're not gonna see anything like you saw Saturday?
I don't believe so. I mean, heck, they may look at the tape and say we need to, but I think Coach Petrino is very confident in what he does and has done an excellent job wherever he's been. You know, I think they would rather see where we're lined up and get them checked in the, you know, the play they want to run as opposed to just taking a chance on beating you with speed, you know, and not getting you lined up.
Yep.
But we may see it.
Do y'all
How are
look
your
at Saturday
inside
as a good, do y'all look at Saturday as a good gauge of what you'll be facing in coming years in the SEC?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a team, is this Coach Petrino's 4th year maybe?
That's right, yeah.
You know, a team that has his signature obviously on it. They've recruited, you know, to the SEC with the personnel that he wants to have. I think they're a physical team with excellent skill and excellent coached, or very well coached. Excellent coaches is what I meant to say. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're a team that's very well deserving of a top 20 ranking, and you know, that's what we're getting ready for in the future, I guess.
Along those lines, the physicality of this team y'all about to play, how are your inside linebackers progressing?
We made progress last week, I thought. You know, we still have a ways to go, but I thought Jonathan Stewart made progress. I think Stephen Jenkins is making progress. Charlie Thomas is doing a nice job in passing situations. We still got to get better at run fits. G needs to step things up a little bit, and we're going to look at Sean Ward more this week.
Tim, you were mentioning about the, you know, Arkansas, you know, as kind of a preview of the SEC. Does the SEC have a different offensive identity, you think, than the Big 12?
Oh, absolutely. The SEC, for the most part, is much more of an NFL-looking type of an offensive attack. And of course, there are different offenses. Mississippi State's running more spread stuff like Coach Meyer ran at Florida. But you know, when you're looking at LSU and Arkansas and Alabama, you're going to see much more two-back, much more multiple personnel grouping, really establishing the run in a physical running game, and then to set up the passing game after. Where in our league, it's a little bit more of a spread league, spreading you out to run the football and spreading you out to throw the football.
Well, creativity-wise, do you think it's more difficult to be a defensive coordinator in the Big 12 than possibly in the SEC?
I don't, they're different challenges, so I don't know if it's one more than the other. I guess the key is realizing what you're facing and trying to get your best athletes on the field to match up and to put them in the best positions to defend what you're seeing from them.
And I know this is thinking way far in advance, but Coach Sherman wanted the 3-4, I guess, because of the spreads. And now you moved to the SEC. I mean, is there talk of a 4-3? Or is that
No.
too far? 'Cause I know Alabama runs a 3-4.
They do. I think the SEC, like I mentioned, as I see it, most of those teams are very similar in structure to what NFL teams like to do. You look at what's happening in the NFL now with what the Pittsburgh Steelers do, you know, the Dallas Cowboys down here, the Texans with Coach Phillips. Half the NFL now is gone to 3-4, and that's a two-back league that then goes to one back afterwards, very much like the SEC does. So we don't anticipate that. I've run 4-3 in my career. I like our package the way it is right now.
What have you seen from Arkansas